Hi, welcome class to lesson 4.6c. This lesson is actually from Big Ideas lesson 4.9. I'm going to continue calling on the same unit and calling it 4.6c. We're writing cubic functions given a graph with roots. So this time they're going to give you the graph, and from that we can find the x-intercepts, and we're going to write the cubic function, which is the equation. Here we go. In this first example, it tells us to write a cubic function. So our main goal is to write our equation. Okay, so whenever you see this graph, you want to identify the zeros. Remember, the zeros are the same as your roots and your solutions or x-intercepts. So I have an x-intercept here of -2, 1, and +3. So those are my x-intercepts or my zeros. Now I need one extra point to write to my equation. So usually somewhere on the graph, there's a point that's not on the x-axis, and they identify it right there as 0, 3. Okay, and we're going to use that as our xy. When writing these equations, we're going to start it just like we did before when we had roots. The only difference is that we don't know this a value. Before, we always assumed that a value was 1. This time it is not. It's going to change the graph. It might be a vertical stretch or a vertical shrink depending on this a value. So we're going to solve for that. Notice I already substituted in factored form. My answer is x equals -2, and when we write it factored, is x plus. Because if I set this equal to 0 and solve, x would equal -2. Okay, so let's take the opposites of each one. The 0 is at x equals 1, so I write -1 there, and +3, so -3 there. So that's your first start for each root that you have. Okay, the other part we're going to do is we're going to use this point here. The first point is going to be our x and y. So everywhere we see x, we want to replace it with 0. And then the y value over here, we're going to replace it with 3. So that's your first step. Go ahead and pause the video and copy that step down. Very important step to follow. Now, as you can see, there are all numbers, and the only variable left is the letter a. And we're going to solve for that a, okay? Let's simplify inside each parenthesis first, just to be careful, okay? So 0 plus 2, 0 take away 1, or 0 take away 3. So here we are. Next thing, we're just going to multiply all these numbers together. You can type this in your calculator just like you see it. So -2 times, +2 times -1 times -3. Just type that all in. All of this is times a. So really it's a number times a. And negative times the negative here is positive. So this is +6. So this I have +6a. You can write the 6 in the front of the a. It means the same thing. Final step to solve for a. This is time, so we're going to divide both sides by 6 and reduce. 3 divided by 6 is 1/2. So now I have my a value. Now be careful, we're not done here. It says write a cubic function. So our equation is supposed to be a cubic, all right? So this is just giving us this a value. So I'm going to go way back to this original equation. We're going to just copy this original step here, but instead of a, we found out what a is. A is exactly 1/2. So to write our equation, it's y equals, I'm replacing my a value in the front with the 1/2, copy all the other factors just as it is. So that also shows our roots. Okay, in Big Ideas, I believe they write as f of x equals, but same thing, we have an equation that represents our cubic. It will have a 0 on these 3 x-intercepts, and it will cross that point right there, 0, 3. All right, that is what our lesson. We're going to do a few more examples. I'm going to go a little bit faster. Pause the video whenever necessary to get caught up and check your work. All right, so here's the answer to this problem right here. I just want to see how far you can do. Pause the video right here before I show you the steps, but I want to see if you can get this value in the front. Okay, remember, we're not going to guess this. You're going to solve for that a value. All right, so how did I do this? I took this -1 here, and then I see 1. I say, but wait, I only see that it crossed twice. Remember, if there is a local minimum or a local maximum that touches perfectly on the x-intercept, it's actually a double root. So I wrote x equals 1 twice. Yep, because if you only write it once, you're going to get a quadratic, something that's x squared. They want a cubic, so that's why I had to write that twice. Tricky, isn't it? All right, so let's go through the steps just together so that you are comfortable in substituting your x's and all x's and the y. Remember, our goal is to solve for that a value, okay? So I take the opposite of this negative and the opposite of those two positive ones here. All right, plug in my y, and all the x's are replaced with that point. Okay, I do recommend doing this slowly, so I would add this together. So that's 3, 2 take away 1 is 1, times another 1. So take your time with those so you don't mess up that and multiply this all together. So 3 times 1 is 3. Divide both sides by 3, and that's how I got the 1 in the front. Okay, to finish, remember, this represents a cubic. At home, you're always welcome to check your answer. You could type this in just like you see it here into Desmos.com, and you should see a graph with all these curves with these two x-intercepts. All right, one last one. I want you to try this from beginning to end on your own and see how you do. So I'm showing you the answer there, but I want you to verify all your steps before you continue the video and see if you can duplicate this yourself, okay? All right, hopefully you did pause the video and give it a try. The zeros I see here are -1, +3, and +4. And the other extra point I see is 0, 3. Okay, so remember opposites again. You want to plug in to try to do the opposites. And now I'm going to plug in all the x values with 0 and the y values with 3. So it depends on the point. It's not always 0. So this is 1, this is -3, and -4. Multiply these numbers together, and I get a positive, because these two negatives make a positive, positive 12. Divide both sides by positive 12, and reduce. Don't forget to reduce. 3 divided by 12 is 1 divided by 4, so 1/4. You can write as a decimal as well, so 0.25. So if you got that, that is also correct. It means the same, 0.25. Okay, all right, that is the end of the lesson. Go ahead, good luck, try your homework, and check this video whenever you get stuck.